Steve Harvey was hosting a regular Family Feud episode when a mother and her 3 young children took the stage, and something about them made him pause. The woman's smile didn't quite reach her eyes, and her children kept glancing at an empty spot at the family podium, as if someone was missing. What Steve didn't know was that these children believed their father was deployed in Afghanistan, thousands of miles away, unable to come home. But backstage, hidden from view, a man in military uniform was waiting for the moment that would change everything. By the time this Family Feud episode ended, Steve Harvey would be crying so hard he couldn't speak. 3 children would experience the shock of their lives, and millions of viewers would witness one of the most beautiful military reunions ever captured on television. It was Monday afternoon, November 6, 2023, during a Family Feud taping at the Atlanta studios. The Martinez family from San Diego, California, was competing against the Thompson family from Austin, Texas. Both families brought energy and competitive spirit. But from the moment the Martinez family walked onto the stage, something felt incomplete. Sarah Martinez stood at the family podium with her 3 children, 10-year-old Emma, 8-year-old Lucas, and 6-year-old Sophie. Sarah's mother, 62-year-old Rosa, completed the family team. They were one person short of a full family, and that absence was visible in the way the children kept looking at the empty space where their father should have been standing. During the family introductions, Steve walked over with his usual warmth. "Now, we've got the Martinez family from San Diego. Beautiful family. But I'm noticing we're missing someone. Where's Dad?" Emma, the oldest, stepped forward with a maturity beyond her 10 years. "Our daddy is deployed in Afghanistan, Mr. Harvey. He's a sergeant in the army. He's been gone for 8 months. Steve's expression softened immediately. 8 months. That's a long time for you kids to be without your father. Lucas, the middle child, nodded, with tears already forming in his eyes. "We miss him every single day, but Mommy says he's keeping us safe, so we have to be brave." Little Sophie, only 6 years old, added in a small voice, "Daddy said he'd be home for Christmas, but Christmas is still far away." Sarah Martinez put her arms around her children, and Steve could see her fighting back tears. What he didn't see was the producer in the control room giving a signal. What he didn't know was that everything was about to change. What nobody in the studio audience knew was that Sergeant James Martinez wasn't in Afghanistan. He was backstage, 30 feet away from his children, listening to their voices for the first time in 8 months. He was wearing his Army combat uniform, medals on his chest, and tears were streaming down his face as he heard his daughter say his name. James Martinez had been deployed to Afghanistan for what was supposed to be a 12-month tour. He'd left in March 2023, missing Emma's 10th birthday, Lucas's first soccer game of the season, and Sophie learning to ride a bike without training wheels. He'd missed 8 months of his children's lives, staying connected only through occasional video calls when internet service allowed it. But 3 weeks ago, James had received unexpected news. His unit was being rotated home early. He would be back in the United States by October 28th, more than 2 months before his family expected him. The moment James learned this, he started planning. He wanted to surprise his children. He wanted to see their faces when they realized he was home. So he contacted his wife, Sarah, with the plan. She would take the kids on what they thought was a trip to visit Grandma Rosa in Atlanta. But secretly, they would appear on Family Feud. And in the middle of the show, James would walk out and reunite with his family on national television. Sarah had been terrified the children would somehow figure it out. For 3 weeks, she'd kept this secret, planning the trip to Grandma's, filling out the Family Feud application, coordinating with the show's producers, all while her children believed their father was still half a world away. The night before the taping, James had flown into Atlanta. He'd stayed in a hotel room alone, so close to his family, but unable to see them yet. That morning, while Sarah brought the children to the studio, James had entered through a back entrance, his heart pounding with anticipation. Now he stood backstage in full uniform, waiting for his cue. He could hear the game show music, hear Steve's voice, hear his children laughing and competing. Every fiber of his being wanted to run out there immediately, to hold his kids, to tell them he was home. But he waited, because the surprise would be worth it. The game proceeded normally for the first few rounds. The Martinez family was doing remarkably well, despite being down a family member. Emma was sharp with her answers, Lucas was enthusiastic, and even little Sophie got an answer on the board. Sarah kept wiping her eyes, overwhelmed with emotion, knowing what was about to happen. Steve noticed Sarah's tears. "Mrs. Martinez, you okay?" Sarah nodded, unable to speak without giving everything away. "I know this must be hard," Steve said gently, "competing without your husband here. But I can tell you're a strong family. Your children are incredible." "They are," Sarah managed to say. "They're so much stronger than they know." The Martinez family won the main game, and as they celebrated, Steve announced they would play Fast Money. "Sarah, who do you want to play Fast Money with you?" Without hesitation, Sarah said, "My daughter Emma." Emma stepped forward, and Steve could see she was nervous but determined. "Okay, Emma, your mom is going to answer 5 questions, and then you're going to answer the same 5 questions. Are you ready?" Emma nodded. Sarah went first, answering all 5 questions, while Emma waited backstage with noise-canceling headphones. When Sarah finished, she looked at Steve with tears streaming down her face, and Steve thought she was just emotional about the game. He had no idea what was really about to happen. "Emma, come on out," Steve called. Emma walked back to the podium, and Steve began asking her the 5 Fast Money questions. She answered 4 of them quickly. Then came the 5th question, the one that would change everything. "Emma," Steve said, reading from his card, "name something you wish could happen right now, today." Emma didn't hesitate. Her voice broke as she answered, "I wish my daddy could come home." The audience let out a collective "ah" of sympathy. Steve put his hand over his heart. Sarah was crying openly now, and backstage, James Martinez heard his daughter's voice and knew it was time. Steve looked at Emma with such compassion. "Sweetheart, I know you miss your daddy, and I know—" He didn't get to finish his sentence, because at that moment, from the side of the stage, Sergeant James Martinez walked out in full uniform. Emma saw him first. Her mouth fell open. For a split second, she seemed frozen, as if her brain couldn't process what her eyes were seeing. Then she screamed, "Daddy!" and ran across the stage so fast she nearly tripped. James dropped to his knees and caught his daughter as she launched herself into his arms. He held her so tight, both of them sobbing. Emma saying, "Daddy, daddy, daddy," over and over, like she couldn't believe he was real. Lucas saw his father next and let out a yell of pure joy before sprinting across the stage. "Dad! Dad's home!" He crashed into his father's arms, and James somehow managed to hold both children while crying so hard he could barely breathe. Little Sophie, the youngest, had been standing with her grandmother. She stared at her father, and then her face crumpled, and she started crying. "Daddy?" she said in the smallest voice, as if afraid she was imagining it. "Come here, baby girl," James called to her, and Sophie ran to him, completing the family huddle. James had all 3 of his children in his arms, all of them crying, holding on to him like they would never let go. Steve Harvey stood off to the side, tears streaming down his face, his hand over his mouth. The audience was on their feet, crying, cheering, watching this family reunite. Sarah had collapsed into her mother's arms, both of them sobbing with relief and joy. The competing Thompson family was crying. The producers in the control room were crying. Every single person in that studio was watching this father hold his children and feeling the weight of 8 months of separation finally ending. James looked up at Steve with tears running down his face into his uniform. "Thank you," he mouthed. "Thank you for this." Steve walked over slowly, giving the family their moment, but unable to stay away. When he reached them, he put his hand on James's shoulder. "Welcome home, Sergeant. Welcome home." "Thank you, sir," James said, his voice thick with emotion. "I've been waiting 8 months for this." Emma pulled back just enough to look at her father's face. "I thought you were in Afghanistan. Mom said you couldn't come home until Christmas." "I gotta come home early, baby girl," James said, touching her face like he was memorizing every detail. "And I wanted to surprise you. Are you surprised?" "Yes!" All 3 children shouted at once, and everyone laughed through their tears. Steve looked at the family, then at the audience, then back at James. "Sergeant Martinez, what you do for this country, the sacrifice you and your family make, there are no words. But let me tell you something." Steve's voice was breaking now. "What I just witnessed, this moment right here, this is why I do this show. This is what matters." The audience erupted in applause that lasted for over 5 minutes. Production had completely stopped. Nobody cared about fast money points or prize money anymore. They were witnessing something that transcended any game show. When the applause finally died down, Steve made an announcement. "Sergeant Martinez, your family won fast money. But I'm going to tell you right now, both families are getting the prize money today. Both families win. Because what you represent, what your family represents, that's worth more than any game." More applause. More tears. James stood up, finally, his children still clinging to him like they were afraid he'd disappear if they let go. Sarah made her way to her husband, and they embraced for the first time in 8 months, while their children wrapped their arms around both parents. "I missed you so much," Sarah whispered. "I'm home," James said. "I'm finally home." The episode became one of the most watched Family Feud episodes in history, with over 600 million views. Thousands of military families shared their own stories. Active duty service members wrote that Emma's joy reminded them why they serve. The Martinez family appeared on talk shows. James spoke openly about missing his children's lives during deployment. "The hardest part isn't the danger," he said. "It's missing the little moments. That's what deployment takes. Moments you can never get back." Today, James works as a veterans counselor, helping other military families. Sarah speaks at military spouse support groups. Emma wants to join the military like her dad. Lucas still plays soccer and dedicates every goal to his father. Sophie keeps a photo from the reunion on her bedside table. Steve Harvey calls the family every Veterans Day to remind them their service matters. "People thank soldiers for their service," Steve said during a later interview. "But we forget that the families serve too. Those kids spent 8 months without their father. Sarah spent 8 months as a single parent, handling everything alone, worrying every day. That's service too. And when I see families like the Martinezes, it reminds me that freedom isn't free. Someone pays for it. And often it's children who pay by missing their parents." The moment on Family Feud when Emma wished for her father to come home and then turned to see him walking onto the stage lasted only seconds. But those seconds contained 8 months of missing him, 8 months of being brave, 8 months of a little girl wishing her daddy could come home. And in that moment, that wish came true. James Martinez served his country with honor, but the moment he treasures most from his entire military career isn't any combat mission or commendation. It's the moment he walked onto a game show stage and saw his daughter's face light up with joy. It's the moment he held all 3 of his children again. It's the moment he came home. If this incredible reunion moved your heart, make sure to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button. Share this video with someone who needs to be reminded of the sacrifices military families make every single day. Do you have a military family member who's currently deployed? Let us know in the comments, and let's show them support.